Everyone, welcome back to the Eternal Tournament Series. Got more great games planned for you today. We have childroland Skycrag Aggro versus Toth201's Praxis Midrange, and I am here with Paradox.
Hi there, LocoPojo. Welcome back. This should be a pretty good matchup coming up. Skycrag versus Praxis. I don't think... no, we did get to see Praxis on stream earlier. We've actually seen everybody now on stream. This will be really interesting because Praxis with the Purify buff has a lot more ways to deal with aggro and is able to stop aggression a lot better and get themselves into the late game. But Skycrag has a lot of Aegis units that can sort of make it rough for Toth to do anything unless he has Zenith Initiation, which he does not. So at first glance, I would probably throw this game to childroland, but that's just me. What are your thoughts on this?
3 Zenith Initiations in Toth's main board, so he's got a decent amount of early game, Torch, Purify, Initiation, but at the same time, he doesn't have any drops before 3, and that's going to be pretty scary against the Skycrag list. The other thing is that Roland's deck has proven to be pretty good in sort of the late game scenario. I don't think that the Steelfang Chakram plan that Roland is running is necessarily as good against things like Carnosaur and Heart of the Vault and sort of the really, really super big units. It's going to be a little bit harder for him to do stuff there. But at the same time, Toth's particular style is not necessarily going to match up very well against what is a very, very hard aggro deck.
Yeah, sorry about that. I did miss the Zenith Initiations. That was my mistake.
Oh, that's no worry.
Yeah, the Chakrams definitely are rough for Toth. One thing also is that if Toth is a little bit light on his removal draws, Roland does have a plethora of flyers in his deck, and Sandstorm Titan is going to be kind of the only main way to stop that. And Roland, between Torch, Rampage, Polymorph, and Permafrost is able to make it so that the Zenith Initiations are not going to be as easy to get off. So yeah, we'll have to see how this plays out here. I think both players do have a really good shot and a really good ways of attacking each other's decks.
Roland attacking in with a Vadius Clanfather here. He has the Rampage up to deal with this large flyer if he wants to, but if there's no block, then he has the Polymorph as well. So he's looking pretty good for the early game, but he doesn't have a lot of removal for the late game units. Rampage will help out against one big drop, and then after that, he's a little bit out of juice. On the other hand, Toth sitting on just a Heart of the Vault at the top. He's not going to be able to play anything valuable for the next turn. The Obelisk will allow him to get some pretty decent defenses marked up against Vadius Clanfather, or to aggro in himself, which is certainly one way to sort of pressure Roland back.
Yeah, Roland here opts to not play the second Primal Source, which is a little bit unfortunate for the Cladstone Carrier, but he does get the Soulfire Drake on the board, which I think is the better play.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I like Toth's position of assuming the beatdown here. He is trying to be essentially more aggressive than Roland, knowing that he's got the Heart of the Vault at the top to knock out Soulfire Drake, and then if he just pressures in, he's going to try to force Roland to take a defensive stance. That actually can be good against the Skycrag deck, especially since the Skycrag deck is sort of a little bit slower than other aggro decks. It relies on those quick draws and sort of forcing your opponent into the defensive posture to win out on value. But I think that Toth may have the right line here. He actually is going to make it so that Roland is going to be forced to consider blocking next turn, and that could be very bad for him.
I actually do really like those attacks from Toth. Because he has the Obelisk, it makes it so that Roland has very few options of actually swinging through the Heart of the Vault, and which is the case here. The Rampage not able to get that 4th point of damage that he would need to trade with it. So Roland just plays units and passes and kind of slows down his board and puts him in a really kind of awkward spot.
Looking good. Once the aggro deck starts to be on defense, things get really, really ugly. And Toth sitting on a Heart of the Vault, he has the ability to attack in with smaller token units. He has Dawnwalker Zenith Initiation, and he's sitting on an Obliterate as well, one that has been heavily discounted by Heart of the Vault. So he's got a lot of plays here. He can't play all of his cards in one go, but he can do Dawnwalker Initiation without any issues, kill the Vadius, or he can go for Overwhelm and get rid of this flyer, which is not a bad idea either.
Yeah, I think that's the correct play from Toth, and now he just gets the swing in, which is really bad for Roland.
This is one chump block from the Snowcrest Yeti, and after that, Roland's still got 14 points of damage to chump through. I don't know that there's really a lot that he can do here. He's gone down below 4, which means that even the little tokens are going to kill him. Dawnwalker is going to be pressuring as well, so that's all she wrote, I think. At this point,
Yeah.
Roland's out of the game.
Yeah, I really like those plays from Toth. That's some to me it seems like he has a really clear understanding of what was in Child Roland's hand there, and know that he was sort of free from many of the big things that could swing the game back in his favor, and he just takes advantage of it and swings it. So that's some really good plays by Toth there, and it looks like he's going to be able to close this out if he really just with an ace base, but he also has the Zenith initiation backup to be able to clean anything that he wants to.
Initiation allows him to get rid of Vadius in particular, and once that's done, that's pretty much game. Like, I think that's actually lethal right away. So
yes, he puts it on the frog for the nice swing in there. He knows that Roland has a fast spell, but I think at this point he's figured out that it's not a torch, and by letting it resolve, I think he knows for sure now that it's not a torch.
this might be the most efficient play, and it might be styling. Hard to say which. Killer Frog looks pretty good. He's still got the overwhelm damage on the 6-3, and then the 8-8 is certainly lethal, so there you go.
Yep, quick game one for Toth there. Definitely some excellent plays by Toth, knowing where he's safe, where he's not, and realizing that Roland doesn't have the cards to put it back in his favor, like obliterates and everything else, and that he can just actually start the aggression. And he attacked very, very early on, which means that he kind of knew his sort of role as the beatdown at a very early point in the game. So great plays by Toth.
But no frog lethal. Doesn't count. Reset the bracket.
Yeah, reset.
All right, so we are going to be looking at the sideboards now. There's going to be a lot of potential options for Toth here. He can go a little bit lower. He's got Devoted Theurge, which is definitely a solid card here. And he has Praxis Displacer to sort of set up some Aegis poppers. But I don't know if Praxis Displacer is a better card than Sandstorm Titan for him here, so he might not want to make that many changes. Predatory Carnosaur is still really strong. The slows are not particularly good against Skycrag, although it is really nice to make a Steelfang Chakram cost 8. Beyond that, like, I think that it's mostly up to Roland to recover and figure out a way to get around this deck. And if Toth can continue to build the board the way that he's been doing, that's a rough deal.
Yeah. If I'm Roland here, I'm thinking about sort of there's sort of two plans that you can take. It's either will he have enough small units that it's going to put so much pressure on my early drops that I'm not going to be able to focus on that plan, and instead am I going to have to go for the sort of the flyers and the sort of the bigger cards to take me home, or do I think I can get under him as fast as possible, given that he is sort of a Praxis deck? I personally think that the way to go here is going to be to opt for flyers, just because by having 4 torches and 4 purifies, that's really going to slow down a lot of his early game, and that's not going to be as reliable of a strategy.
Yeah, I think that like Toth's current setup of just like making the board happen is probably going to be his best option.
Yeah, I think so too. Toth here, his sideboard issue is that he has to think about mostly how he's going to comfortably set up his sort of his late game here. He has a huge chunk of cards in the 4-drop slot. I know he's often taken the Theurges and probably a couple of Praxis Displacers as well. And then I believe if you're Toth, you want to take out the Zenith Obelisks, but he might choose to keep those in just because big Sandstorm Titans can be so hard for Skycrag to deal with.
Going into game 2 now, Child Roland has a 1-drop and a 2-drop in his hand, and then a Permafrost. I'm not sure if this is enough aggression for him to really love this hand, but we'll see if he throws it back. Toth going straight to mulligans. His first drop is a 4-drop. It is Sandstorm Titan, though, and that's a pretty important card for him.
Yeah, Roland does opt to keep the hand. Just seeing that he has a Chakram and then a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and a Permafrost. Not the strongest, but certainly safe and very functional.
Yeah, based on what he was seeing last time around, he really wants those Chakrams to make it so that all of his threats actually recover against these larger mid-range units. So he'll be able to basically just suicide into cards like Sandstorm Titan and continue to keep up pressure, keep his opponent playing just 1 unit at a time, and basically always answering with a smaller unit and a Chakram. But at the moment, like, nothing's looking great here. Toth is going to be setting up very, very slowly, but he's not under so much pressure that he's really worried about not playing anything until turn 4. Vadius, however, fixes that.
Yeah, but he can't play the Vegas because he doesn't have the second fire source. So that's a little bit awkward for Child Roland.
Yeah.
And
He
at
has
this
to,
point, oh, go
he
ahead.
has to consider whether he's going to play the Cobalt Monument here as power and try to get to Chakram early, or if he's just going to play a regular old Primal Sigil and try to play value late.
Yeah, I think if you're rolling, you have to play the Cobalt Monument so that you can get the Vadius down, and that's what he opts to go for. Looking now with the Sandstorm Titans coming up, this is a little bit of a rough spot for Roland because the Chakram is going to be his only real way of getting past all that. And the first Titan is usually manageable. The second one is tough, and the third one is usually game over. So Roland's going to have to really get some excellent draws here to finish this out.
Yeah. On the plus side, he does have Chakram on a 6/1, so that's a good 8 damage pressured very, very quickly. Titan number 1 is going to fall to a 6/1. Titan number 2 is going to be in a very similarly poor position. Like, this does not look good for Toth at the moment.
Yeah, I do like that Roland put the Chakram on the Aegis unit. I think it'd be tempting to want to put it on the Outlaw because of quick draw, but by having it on the Aegis, you're okay with dropping it as long as you can just keep attacking and make sure that you have that safe attack, and that's what he goes for. So I do like that play by Roland.
Yet another great unit here. He's picked up a Praxis Displacer. He did side them in. This card, I believe, does trigger Entomb on the Steel Fang Chakram if it tosses the weapon off. So basically, Praxis Displacer will reset Child Roland's board while also building Toss. It's not going to be amazing, but it should be good enough to deal with sort of the early setup and actually give Toth the ability to start cracking back.
Yes, and that is correct about the Chakram. The only way the Chakram can fall out, and not trigger the Entomb, is if it is discarded from your hand or silenced on the unit as it is. So Toth actually has no good ways of dealing with the Chakram. None at all, in fact, except for Purify.
To him, but Purify is a very, very solid answer if he can get it. And,
Absolutely.
you know, like, regardless, he may not be that worried about the Steel Fang Chakram. He just wants to play more units than his opponent, and at the moment, he's definitely going to be able to do that. Basically, every unit that Toth has is going to be bigger, or at least big enough to match with the Chakram. The thing that's really scary here is that because his units have sort of lost Aegis, whenever he puts the Chakram on, is going to be vulnerable to straight removal.
Yes.
Pressure from Roland here.
Yeah, I do like that he puts it on the Outlaw, so that way Toth is more inclined to deal with the Outlaw as opposed to Vadius, and he can keep that around. I do think it was interesting that he didn't opt to try and torch or permafrost the card there, though. And this is going to be a little bit rough for him, but actually, unless he gets a good draw, he might actually just have lethal here.
Yeah, Steel Fang Chakram forces the block from Heart of the Vault. Is the face, so yeah, I think he's just going to Chakram up, Permafrost, and kill him.
And then swing for lethal. Yep, he's got it. Yeah. Very nice string of plays by Roland there. He's able to close out that second game.
Being able to play anything until turn 4 is definitely kind of, that is the thing that we talked about early on with this deck, is that he does have a lot of issues getting started. So if Roland doesn't have a slow hand, and his hand was kind of slow, but Toth's was a lot slower, and that just meant that Roland was able to basically just get all of that damage in very, very quickly.
Yeah, the Chakram really helped him out there and made sure he didn't get stopped completely cold by the Sandstorm Titans. I imagine if Toth had a little bit more early play, that would have been game over. But those Aegis units to protect him from any removal spells that he could have drawn really did a lot of work.
A pretty disgusting setup for Child Roland, and now both players are 1-1. We are going to be going into one last round to see who can finish the game.
Yeah, looking at redraws here, Roland keeps a little bit of an interesting hand. He's got a lot of really strong early units, but he's gonna need to draw both removal and a couple of bigger plays.
2 units, 3 units total, and then 4 power, which is not amazing for him, especially since he doesn't have double red for Vadius Clanfather. So he's got a lot of things that he needs to draw to make things work, and Champion of Fury doesn't get to come down as a charge unit, so this is all looking pretty rough for him.
Yeah, Toth actually has a very strong starting hand. He's got a Purify now that he can take out the Champion of Fury if he so decides.
Or you can wait for that Steel Fang Chakram to come around, use Torch to do the job, and just sort of like basically set himself up against Child Roland's late game as well as his early game.
Oh yeah, wow, that torch pickup is actually really big for him. Yeah, this is definitely looking in Toth's favor right now. Roland does have the polymorph to be able to answer things, but without too much more action, it's not going to really help him get through. And Toth opts to play the Seek Power and just hold open the torch to probably take out the champion. And there it is, the torch.
Yeah. Toth has some awkward power here. He's got a Praxis banner that he really just doesn't want to play because he wants to leave Torch up. So he does end up torching the Snowcrest Yeti, or the Champion of Fury, but now he has to basically follow up with Amber Acolyte instead of Dawnwalker if he wants to play Power 4 on time, because he's got to expect that whatever he plays down is going to die to something.
Yes. Ooh, and we even see a Heart of the Vault on the top of Roland's deck, and he almost has all the power he gets to play that. So if he gets there, and he does have the Amber Acolyte as well to get there. So we know that he has a really solid late game lined up for himself.
It's just the key card against this list. Not only does it kill some of the smaller dudes and knock off those Aegises, it also provides a very solid blocker and another card's worth of advantage at a very good tempo rate. It's just such a stabilizer in this list. It's very powerful to get the Heart of the Vault in Big Praxis, and anytime that you get it off the top of your deck in particular is just a really demanding turn for that list.
Yeah, I like the Dawnwalker play from Toth here because it really sets him up for Sandstorm Titan, and that does actually sort of telegraph to Roland what he's going to be dropping next turn, and he's going to have the polymorph to deal with it, but not a lot of the power to finish up after that. Oh, but Toth doesn't have the 4th untapped power, so he has to go with the Amber Acolyte here.
Now he can play Praxis Banner and get himself set up with a little bit more power. He'll be able to play a 5/5 next turn if he chooses to, but if he wants to play the depleted Monument on turn 5 so that he can get to Heart of the Vault on 6, that might also be a better option for him.
Not a terrible pickup with the Champion of Fury, but still doesn't have charge with that second Fire Sigil, and he actually needs 2 more Fire Sigils to hit that Soulfire Drake. So even though he's gotten down a couple of life points here, it's not looking very good for Roland right now.
A situation where he actually wants to draw power. Soulfire Drake is a very good card for him here. It's not great against Sandstorm Titan, but he's got the polymorph for that. If he can actually get enough damage across in the air, that's going to be really, really special for him. Toth, in the meantime, looking at playing down a Sandstorm Titan, could play down a 5/5 here to sort of try and draw the polymorph. And if he gets the polymorph and then gets a Sandstorm Titan down, that's curtains for Roland.
Yeah, now if I'm Toth here, ooh, I don't actually know about the Reinhardt play. I actually think that you kind of want to go with Obliterate or Sandstorm Titan, but yeah, now he does make himself vulnerable to Permafrost. Luckily for him, Roland doesn't actually have one.
Trying to draw that polymorph, and he thinks that that's what Roland has in his hand. And he is correct. So he's going to be able to at least block the 2/1 if the polymorph happens here. Roland could try to do something else, but if he doesn't create some action here, then Toth can just Xenon Initiation across, and Roland has to know that that's a possibility. It's not something that's in Toth's hand, but it's something that he has to be really scared of at the moment.
Yeah, I like that he holds back the Snowcrest Yeti there, making it a good target for a Chakram later on, knowing that he doesn't need to quite throw it away just yet.
For Frogs, Toth attacking in, being aggressive again, trying to force the game to be over after a certain number of turns. This is very important if you want to be able to get ahead of the Soulfire Drake, and it's going to put Roland on the back foot in a very serious way. Diplomatic Seal, the worst card ever if you're looking for triple influence. I really don't like Diplomatic Seal in decks where you're looking for 3 influence, and in this case with the Soulfire Drakes, I think they came in the side. That's a rougher day for one extra.
No, there are 2 Soulfire Drakes in the main board, and he does play a lower number of Diplomatic Seals than normal, but yeah, this one just being late is just really unfortunate for him. And the second Heart of the Vault comes down. Of course, Heart of the Vaults, as we know, are a pack creatures that always come in pairs, as it seems. Whenever you see one, it always seems like there's another one following it right up.
Yeah, we have double red, double blue, or triple red, double blue for Roland, and the Diplomatic Seal is not getting him there. So that's game 3. Roland goes down, and Toth gets another win, racked up on Praxis midrange. That puts Toth at a total of 3 games to 2, and Roland at a 2-2 record with the bye. So both have a chance of continuing on to the top 5. Neither one is particularly damaged by that round, but they definitely a good feather in the cap for Top, and hopefully something that can help him advance to the top 4.
Yeah, that ended up being a little bit of a rougher matchup for the Skycrag deck than maybe expected. I think that last hand didn't quite work out for him. I don't remember quite if it was a redraw or a keep, but either way, it didn't quite pan out. But that's not the end of the world for either of them because they both have, I believe, 3 more rounds as both of them have had their buys. So there's plenty of room for both of them to make their way back into the top 4.
In other news, Ilya has gone down 0-5, so he will be the first person out of the bracket. He gets to continue to play his games, I believe, but at this point, I don't think that there's any way that he can actually successfully get himself out. There may be a way, but it's going to be a really, really rough road for him at this point. If Moosh sweeps, then he can make it on a 3-5, but that's only if Moosh wins, I believe, every single one of his games.
Yeah, so it's not completely out, but it's certainly a rough road. Yeah, I believe every player is in fact still active then. Every player still has a chance of top 4ing. Moosh, on the other hand, has won his last game again, so he is now 5-0, leading the bracket, which is really incredible. It might actually be that he is able to do a complete reversal from his day 1 appearance.
A pretty ridiculous scenario. So yeah, Moosh, the underdog, now just like completely turning the tables. We shall see if he, like, as a 5-0, I believe he's guaranteed a spot in the top 4. There's almost no way that he can lose, and I think that from there, like, that's going to be a really, really solid setup for him. So cheers to the underdog. We are going to go to a short break, and then we will be back with another game for you guys. See you soon.